Hello and welcome to Thought for the Day. I love the idea of sharing a thought, offering ideas that others might take and grow on. A thought is a seed. With nurturing and attention, you never know what it might become. As I was looking for a thought to share with you, I came upon a book. This book, I don't ever remember buying it, I'm not sure where it came from, and I've never read it until now. It's called Velvet Elvis, Repainting the Christian Faith, and it's by Rob Bell, an American, a Christian, a thinker on spiritual matters. It's about the importance of not being afraid to continue asking questions of our faith. So where does Elvis come into this? And what is a velvet Elvis? Well, it's a painting of Elvis Presley done on black velvet and is apparently a classic example of mid-20th century kitsch. And Rob Bell had one in his basement. And I'm going to read to you now from the beginning of this book. The best part of my Velvet Elvis is the lower left-hand corner, where the artist simply wrote a large capital R and then a full stop. Because when you're this good, you don't even have to write your whole name. What if, when he was done with this masterpiece, R had announced there was no more need for anyone to paint because he had just painted the ultimate painting? What if R had held a press conference, unveiled his painting and then called on all painters everywhere to put down their brushes, insisting that since he had painted the ultimate painting, there was simply no need for any of them to continue their work? Well, we'd say that R had lost his mind. We say this because we instinctively understand that art has to in some way keep going, keep exploring, keep arranging, keep shaping and forming and bringing in new perspectives. For thousands of years, followers of Jesus, like artists, have understood that we have to keep going, exploring what it means to live in harmony with God and with each other. The Christian faith tradition is filled with change and growth and transformation. Jesus took part in this process by calling people to rethink faith and the Bible and hope and love and everything else, and by inviting them into the endless process of working out how to live as God created us to live. The challenge for Christians then is to live life with great passion and conviction, remaining open and flexible, aware that this life is not the last painting. Times change. God doesn't, but times do. We learn and grow and the world around us shifts, and the Christian faith is alive only when it's listening, morphing, innovating, letting go of whatever has gotten in the way of Jesus and embracing whatever will help us be more and more the people God wants us to be. There are endless examples of this ongoing process, so I'll describe just one. Around 500 years ago, a man named Martin Luther raised a whole series of questions about the painting the church was presenting to the world. He insisted that God's grace could not be purchased with money or good deeds. He wanted everyone to have their own copy of the Bible in a language they could read. He argued that everyone had a divine calling on their lives to serve God, not just priests who had jobs in churches. The concept was revolutionary for the world at that time. He was articulating earth-shattering ideas for his listeners, and they heard him, and something big, something historic happened. Things changed. Thousands of people connected with God in ways they hadn't before. But that wasn't the end of it. Luther was taking his place in a long line of people who never stopped rethinking and repainting the faith, shedding unnecessary layers and at the same time rediscovering essentials that had been lost. Luther's work was part of what came to be called the Reformation. Because of this movement, the churches he was speaking against went through their own process of rethinking and repainting, making significant changes as a result. And this process hasn't stopped. It can't. In fact, Luther's contemporaries used a very specific word for this endless, absolutely necessary process of change and growth. They didn't use the word reformed, they used the word reforming. The distinction is crucial. They knew that they and others hadn't gotten it perfect forever. They knew that the things they said and did and wrote and decided would need to be revisited, rethought, reworked. I'm part of this tradition. I'm part of this global historic stream of people who believe that God has not left us alone, but has been involved in human history from the beginning. People who believe that in Jesus, God came among us in a unique and powerful way, showing us a new kind of life, giving each of us a new vision for our life together, for the world we live in. And as part of this tradition, I embrace the need to keep painting, to keep reforming. By this, I don't mean cosmetic, superficial changes like better lights and music, sharper graphics and new methods with easy-to-follow steps. I mean theology, the beliefs about God, Jesus, the Bible, salvation, the future. We must keep reforming the way the Christian faith is defined, lived and explained. Jesus is more compelling than ever, more inviting, more true, more mysterious than ever. The problem isn't Jesus. The problem is what comes with Jesus. For many people, the word Christian conjures up all sorts of images that have nothing to do with who Jesus is and how he taught us to live. This must change. For others, the painting works for their parents or provided meaning when they were growing up, but it's no longer relevant, it doesn't fit, it's outdated. It doesn't have anything to say to the world they live in every day. It's not that there isn't any truth in it, or that all the people before them were misguided or missed the point. It's just that every generation has to ask the difficult questions of what it means to be a Christian here and now, in this place at this time. And if this difficult work isn't done, where does the painting end up? In the basement. Here's what often happens. Somebody comes along who has a fresh perspective on the Christian faith. People are inspired, a movement starts. Faith that was stale and dying is now alive. But then the pioneer of the movement, the painter, dies and the followers stop exploring. They mistakenly assume that their leader's words were the last ones on the subject and they freeze their leader's words. They forget that as that innovator was doing his or her part to move things along, that person was merely taking part in the discussion that will go on forever. And so in their commitment to what so-and-so said and did, they end up freezing the faith. What gets lost is the truth that whoever painted that version was just like us, searching for God and experiencing God and trying to get a handle on what the Christian faith looks like. And then a new generation comes along, living in a new day and a new world, and they have to keep the tradition going, or the previous paintings are going to end up in the basement. The tradition then is painting, not making copies of the same painting over and over. The challenge of the art is to take what was great about the previous paintings and incorporate that into new ones, and in the process make something beautiful for today. Rob Bell asks the difficult questions, and the answers are thought-provoking. If you can find a copy, give it a go. There are many days' worth of thoughts in here. You may disagree with him, I hope you will at times, but it will get you thinking. If you don't fancy the read, just find some way to keep asking those difficult questions and seeking the answers. Happy thinking.